Everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters, and man, we have a great show for you.
Good morning. What is happening, man? Thank you guys for tuning in. It's Tuesday, so you guys know what's going on. That means it's 9 a.m. Central, so we are live right here in Austin, Texas at Insurance Syndicate headquarters for another episode of Tuesday Training. This is episode 86. 86 of these things that we've done. A couple of them have been syndicated and reproduced for you. But yeah, number 6, and I'm super excited about our guest, Stacey Rasky. I will be bringing her on in a minute. We've had her on before, you may remember. So we're going to pick up a little bit from where we left off from and then catch up with her. I follow her on social media quite a bit. She always has great things to say, great content, great guidance. I really like listening to some of the stuff that she talks about. Super excited to bring her on the show. But first, just a couple of quick news items that popped out. I want to show you guys real fast. Right here, we got some new numbers for Medicare Advantage enrollees, or enrollment numbers, I should say. This was published by the AJMC. I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but anyway, it's a news article written by Miss Brooke McCormick. It says Medicare Advantage hits 32.8 million enrollees, 54% of spending. So not too long ago, it was about 51%. Is continuing to grow, obviously. And they are going to cover this study or research article, I guess, analysis by Kaiser Family Foundation, which will be linked. And I'll make sure this article is in the group. I just want to go through a couple of points on here that I thought were pretty interesting, just to kind of give you some of the new enrollment numbers right here, right? Consequently, research has found that more than half of eligible Medicare beneficiaries, 54% now, used to be 51, now it's 54%, are enrolled in Medicare Advantage in 2024. This equates to 32.8 million of 61.2 million total beneficiaries. $462 billion of Medicare spending. Don't forget, they're going to drop about another $37 billion this year in their new Part D subsidy, but they're already dropping $462 billion. Was supposed to get reduced. They were supposed to be passing legislation that would reduce the cost of Medicare, but it continues to go up. And obviously, again, MA enrollment has jumped from 19% in 2007 all the way up to 54%. Couple more quick numbers. More than 6 in 10 Medicare Advantage enrollees, 62%, are in plans that are generally available to all beneficiaries for an individual enrollment, compared to 2023. And that was an increase of 900,000 enrollees. So really large growth in plan availability is the best way to put that, right? So that is definitely a good thing there, that they're making plans certainly more geographically or I guess more available to individual enrollees. And now there's another million of them that are all enrolled in those types of plans that anybody could get into. Conversely, 5.7 million enrollees are in a group plan offered to retirees by an employer or union. Pretty simple. And that was a big increase. The group enrollees have increased from 1.8 million back in 2010 to 5.7 million in 2024. And then additionally, it says here that 6.6 million beneficiaries are enrolled in special needs plans, and that includes both your D-SNPs and your C-SNPs, your dual eligible and your chronic eligible folks. It goes on to talk about MA enrollment across different states where there's higher penetration or not, but nonetheless, I thought definitely some good information as far as growth numbers and what we're seeing in the MA space. Like I said, I'm going to get that article in there. And then there's one more that I caught today that I wanted to bring up. And this was by Medical Express, which is a medical economics article. But it says the prevalence of homebound people are 22% in a national Medicare Advantage plan. In other words, 22% of people that are enrolled in a national Medicare Advantage plan are homebound. The article goes on to talk a little bit more about what they have found. Basically, the researchers found that the overall prevalence of homebound beneficiaries was 22% in 2022, 8.4% homebound, 13.6% semi-homebound, so not full-bound or full-time. It also says that homebound status was predicted by female sex, low income status, or dual eligibility for Medicare, Medicaid, dementia, and moderate to severe frailty in adjusted models. Increased odds of any emergency department visit, any inpatient hospital admission, any skilled nursing facility admission, and death were seen in association with homebound status and multivariable logistic regression. I thought that was some pretty interesting numbers, and it really made me think about the people that were serving Medicare Advantage. You know, my shop that we have here, our bilingual shop that we're selling by phone and in our brick and mortar technically, by and large, those customers choose Medicare Advantage. I'd say about 90, maybe 95%. I have to go back and look at my numbers, but I would say definitely above 90% of our clientele choose Medicare Advantage on their own, right? Regardless of how well we might educate them on Medicare Supplement, they choose MA. So thinking about that, I'm like, out of every 10 customers that we have, mathematically speaking, 2.2 of them are homebound, meaning they cannot leave their house. Or I should say 8.4% are full-time homebound and 13.6 are semi-homebound, but basically the same concept there. So it really made me understand the importance of other products than just your Medicare products, just your Medicare plan or your Medicare Advantage plan. We've been on a mission with our home healthcare product that we work with, United National Life. Great product. I'm a big believer in it. There are certainly other home healthcare products that are out there that do a great job. GTL's got a good one. I think Medico, Aetna have some short-term care type products. I don't know off the top of my head if those include home healthcare, but that was one of the big reasons why I chose UNL. But it really points out the importance of why that product's so needed. If 22% of your Medicare Advantage enrollees are homebound, then there's a good chance, as it states in this article, that there is going to be a regression, a deeper regression for them versus other folks, and they're likely to need things like skilled nursing care, right? So there are products out there that you can help them with, and this article here just really points out the need for that some more. So I wanted to mention that. I'll get that one in the group as well. But other than that, man, I am super excited. Let's get Stacy on the show. I can't wait to chat with her. It's definitely going to be a chat. Get your questions ready. Drop them in the comments, man. If you got any questions, we are going to be discussing some pretty complex stuff, truthfully, where we're going to be talking about behavioral patterns, positive ones, negative ones, all kinds of things. So get some questions ready. This is going to be, well, it's not going to be so much an insurance conversation, but we will definitely be talking about performance. So please give me a little virtual applause from Miss Stacy Rasky. What is going on?
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. I love that I get to come back and continue our conversation from the last time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just to help us out real quick in a brief synopsis, who's Stacy Rasky? Remind everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Author, speaker, Iraq War veteran. Most importantly, helping you optimize your performance and profit with the right systems and strategies so you can achieve more by doing less.
Boom. Love that. And I want to lead off with something because I follow you on social media. I see a lot of the stuff you put out there. I'm a big fan, right? We met in Arizona at another event. I was super impressed by the way you covered your topic on stage. But anyway, I'm going to read you a quote that you put on your Facebook page the other day that really struck me, and I appreciate it. Listen closely, guys. She said that strong internal clarity is what fuels the courage to say no to anything that distracts you from moving towards your North Star. And that's going to be a big jumping off point. Expand on that comment just to get us started.
Yes. So the biggest challenge I see for people is they're always looking at fixing the symptoms, thinking that it's a marketing problem or a lead gen problem, a sales problem, whatever those things are. And all of those are symptoms of a deeper root issue. And the core is truly a clarity problem. When you have super dialed in clarity of who you are in this moment, and equally, what is that North Star, the big vision of where you're going, it becomes far easier to stay focused on moving the needle forward on what gets that big vision goal closer to your present. Otherwise, it's the shiny objects, the distractions, opening yourself up to not holding to the boundaries and saying no to the things that take you away from where it is that you're going. It becomes much easier to move that needle forward on your goals instead of always being reactive and just putting out the fires.
Yeah. I kind of felt that one a little bit, the reactive fire thing. I pretty much feel like I wear fire boots most of my time and working. But how would you define a North Star, right? North Star in the context of, say, personal or professional development?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a deep internal pull, right? This is that thing, you can call it purpose. You can call it that inner compass, that knowing. When you sit still and you really allow yourself to experience what it is you are called to be, do, have, experience in this world, that vision, that mission, right? And this is not something as simple as defining a 5 or 10-year goal, right? Like if I sit and I visualize myself stepping into my highest self, right? I have a clear vision of what it is. And there is no clear definition of how that's going to happen, because the how is not your job. It's just having the clarity on where are you going. Is
Would
the
be
rest
how
of
to
the
get where you're going is not your job?
is not
Did
your
I hear
job.
that correct? Okay, I just want to make sure.
The who, not how.
The
It
who,
is
not how.
who needs to come into your world to help you get there, to help plan that out. And most importantly, what resources do you already have in your ecosystem to leverage to help get to that vision? But when you have that level of clarity, you're going to be far more committed to funneling all of your energy and flow in a singular direction, and less of the, bandwidth and going all over the place and being, again, so reactive to what's happening, because now you can be proactive in planning and moving the needle forward.
In your experience, how did you know it was clarity and not just more cloudiness?
So for me, it's always, I'm always my first client. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to keep going through these same cycles over and over and over again. So I'm like, okay, doing these things, why is this certain things happening again? And so I'm like, okay, getting to the root. So it's always the consummate scientist is get to the root, get to the root. What is the catalyst? Thinking about it like in a laboratory setting, what is the catalyst to causing a chemical reaction? And so boiling down through, it was always at the core of not having enough clarity in the biggest vision of what is that North Star. And then as you really distill things down, that will help you craft the clarity, will help you craft the marketing plan and strategy, the lead generation plan and strategy, right? The social media content plan and strategy, right? Everybody's always sitting here thinking like, oh, I don't know what to post, or all the shoulding on yourself, right? All the shoulding on yourself. If you have a plan, it becomes far easier to follow through when you know the plan. And the root of the plan is the clarity of where are you going?
Yeah.
Right?
I should. I should do this. I should do that. I should. In case you guys missed that,
The shitting.
he
Quit
doesn't say
shitting
shitting on yourself,
Shitting.
but it's pretty close. If you're
Yes.
shooting all over yourself, you're probably shitting all over
It is
yourself.
pretty
too,
much
and your
the same
opportunity.
thing. Yes, it is the same thing.
Where does that come from? Where do we say, well, I should have done that, or I should have done that, or I should do this, or you listen to other people tell you, well, you should do.
Again, lack of clarity.
Just again, lack
If
of clarity.
you don't know, if you're not going deep within yourself, this is an identity issue, just FYI, right?
Okay.
Lacking clarity is hitting up against your own internal walls and compartmentalization. If you're not getting super deeply clear about what it is you want to be doing in the world, what that inner knowing and that calling is for you, there's no clear path forward. So what happens? Spray and pray. You are off to the workshops and the courses and the listening to everybody's advice. And so what ends up happening is constantly shoving yourself into somebody else's box.
Yeah.
Right. I did this for years in my first company. It was, let me, buying into this course or program, and they're teaching this specific strategy. It doesn't work for me. So they are like, well, it works. So you're the problem. Right. But the problem was that particular strategy was not right for me. But because I didn't have clarity on where am I going, who am I being? Who do I want to serve? How do I want to serve them? I don't even know who I'm talking to, right? It's hard to do that. And so you've got to know who you are and how to get these different things, these tools, these strategies, techniques to fit you. But that's how people end up very much in a spray and pray method of business and leadership, as opposed to sniper target dialed in.
It sounds like a painful process.
Yes, that is getting to
particularly in the personal development side of it, right? I mean, certainly could be in the professional side as well. Like if we're looking at this from, say, I'm running an organization and I have to go through that process of peeling back the layers of my organization to get to the crux of why, right? That could be painful in one level, but I'm thinking of it as an individual, like finding my personal clarity for me, my development to find, as you said earlier, the highest version of myself, right? That sounds like a painful process.
I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be, right? Sometimes it's as simple as looking at what you're avoiding is getting clear and honest with yourself, right? If you're in that hustle bus and just filling every moment of your day, so there's no time to slow down and be present with yourself to ask those questions, right? And again, that's just a survival mechanism, that stress response that we're experiencing that causes a lot of that hustle and just doing. And then the other flip side of that, the extreme opposites, the avoidance, like procrastination or just analysis paralysis, and you're just completely stuck, And so those are different expressions of just a similar level of overwhelm. And it's just a survival mechanism. But if you're not slowing down in a positive experience, it doesn't have to be a negative experience to slow down. But we've got to, you've got to recognize like that level of stress is affecting the world view in which you're bringing to the table when asking yourself these questions. If it's a negative survival based perspective, right? Of course, everything's wrong. It's hard to take a step back and relax into the positive side of having that strong internal compass and clarity. It doesn't always have to be this big, dramatic, unfolding. Right.
Okay, fair enough. You said these questions. What are some of those questions that you might recommend asking yourself as you're going through this process in search of your clarity?
I always like to start with just that biggest vision of you. Like, what is the entire 360-degree, 30,000-foot view of just how do you want to be experiencing your life, right? Because a lot of people get dialed in on this idea of like time freedom, geographic freedom, financial freedom. Problem is, most people are approaching that idea of freedom as a freedom from, not a freedom to. Right? Game changer in perspective is we're still facing backwards, looking at what, I don't want to be my parents. I don't want to be in poverty anymore. I don't want to be, that kid, whatever those things are. I don't want my kids to be that kid, versus really looking forward in this context of freedom too. In that freedom, what do you want that freedom to do and be and have and experience what? So really, instead of it being freedom, it's more about leverage, because the money gives you leverage to impact in a big way. The time gives you leverage to do bigger, more impactful things, right? That the geographic leverage means, again, you get to go different places with this impact or curate a lifestyle that supports what that big vision is. So if you start with the experience of what you want to be having, then you start working backwards. How do you allow that to start unfolding for you? Not getting lost in the minutia of your business, because your business is just one of those tools to help you create that vision. And the iteration of your business today may have nothing to do with how you're impacting professionally in 5 or 10 years. Because it's this ever evolving thing. But when you're not super connected to that North Star, you get stuck in the muck, right? You're planning for just what's right here. And so it's all about instant gratification and self-soothing. So that's why we're in that sabotage reactive cycle, because it's like, I'm going to here, not this big thing way out here that I know is kind of keeping me up and above the muck. I'm not getting lost in the moment because I'm maintaining this larger 30,000 foot view. So if you start working backwards from that experience, like, what is that lifestyle? For me, that lifestyle is my husband being able to travel with me when I'm going to work with clients all over the world. And we're spending this time together, 4 weeks together, 2 weeks together, doing deep, powerful, transformative work. And it's with people who own massive empires and organizations. And that's the impact that lights me up, knowing that having an impact on somebody with that level of influence in the world, that they will take this work that we do, and then their leverage will be doing the big things, right? And so I don't know how that's going to happen. I just trust it is absolutely already on its way to happening, right? And that's very big. It's very non-specific, but for me, it's an emotional experience. I know what that is, my freedom too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We talk about this very similar, a little bit different context, but it's the same kind of concept. And this is something my partner Joe preaches a bit in the office here. Is like, we are fortunate to get the opportunity to pursue a career in insurance, right? We don't have to go do insurance. We get to do insurance. So similar kind of thing. But I had never thought of it specifically from the perspective you were thinking, because every time I thought, just like you said, every time I thought, man, I want some financial freedom, I want some time freedom, I want this, it was exactly what you said. I want freedom from the poverty that's chasing me, and he's right on my ass. I want freedom from that feeling that failure or poverty or indentured servitude, prison, whatever you might want to call it. For a longest period of time, I felt like it was just right behind me and I had to run, or else he's going to get me like a big boogeyman, versus looking at what am I chasing the freedom to do instead.
It is. It's forward facing versus backward facing.
Yeah.
And when it's freedom from, that's what ends up creating a lot of the sabotage cycles that show up as control issues, because you go into hustle, you're hustling for your worthiness, right? Proving you're not whatever that was. Right. And so
Mhm.
it's overworking, overgiving, overdoing, no boundaries,
What would
because
you
it's always hustling to prove your worth and deservability.
What would you tell that person? Someone came to you and it's like, man, I feel like I'm doing well in my business. I feel like I'm doing
Mhm.
pretty well in life, but this is a sensation that I feel constantly, and it's why I work so
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah,
What would you tell that
absolutely.
person?
So, I mean, it's always getting to understanding the story that's driving it. But the big shift is, do you want a different outcome? Then it's clarifying what it is that you do want. But here's the game changer question is when you are like, well, of course I want to change. I want to do XYZ, ABC, whatever that vision is. The most important question to ask yourself, and I always ask my clients this, is they explain the big goal vision, the big, beautiful North Star, whatever that is. And then I ask, okay, now what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with allowing yourself to have that vision? What's wrong with hitting those goals? Because nothing is stopping you except yourself. So you have to understand what your deep inner knowing is telling you. What's wrong with that?
That's a tough question, I would think, for most
Mhm.
people to ask.
And if
Or
you
to
sit
answer, I
with
should
it,
say, not just so much ask, but to answer.
if you sit with it, you're going to get a lot of clarity, right? Well, I'm not worthy. I'm not deserving. I'm not
Okay.
this. I'm not that, right? Like it's the who am I? Like it starts coming
Who
out.
am I to have that? Okay.
Mhm.
Understood. It's
Right?
looking at it
You
from that
start,
side, it makes more sense.
yeah. But the thing is you don't have to retell the story. It doesn't matter what the story is. Everybody has a story. That story needs to come up and out. And that's all that question is for, is giving that the up and out. I'm like, okay, cool. So, that got some breathing room and some space. You've seen it. It's okay to like let that story go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's just the programming and the meaning we're assigning to things. So when shifting the behaviors that you see all the time, you don't have to always go into the deep well of all the BS beneath the surface. It's strategically looking at where does the trigger happen that creates the behavior you don't want. Every time you're doing something specific, right? We'll just say, hey, you've got something really amazing to say. You're like, oh, I'm feeling inspired. I'm going to go live and just spew my truth. And I know somebody needs to hear this. And you're about ready to do it. And then you stop, right? You don't do it. It's just an easy example. Or call the lead or follow up or whatever it is. So it's deciding to uncover one or two steps before the trigger happens, and then building yourself, just changing the conditions, right? This is where systems come into play, is the systems create the safety to turn off that survival brain that consistently puts you into the sabotage behavior. So if you change the system and change the conditions, you change the behavior. And you never had to worry about going in and reprogramming the subconscious, because by changing the behavior, you are influencing the subconscious. But it's a really tactical and strategic approach to get results and behavior change now, while also addressing long-term results. It's really cool. You're just hacking your stress response.
Mm-hmm. So how does one figure out the 2 steps before the trigger? Like what? I don't even know how to ask the question because I feel like it's so over my head. I mean, I understand the concept of what we're looking for.
Yeah,
We're trying to find
yeah.
the thing that makes us not do productivity or whatever it
Yes,
might be.
it's
The
super
things that
simple.
makes us.
Yeah, it's really simple. Is you just focus on one thing that you do, and what are the conditions creating the behavior you don't want. So it could be really, really simple. This is where you do have to get in the minutia, right? We were talking about big vision. Now it's the minutia. If you open up your phone specifically to check something And by the time you get your phone open, you've seen 5 notifications that pulled you away from the thing you were going to do. Hey, there's the condition. There's all these notifications on my phone. So instead, turning off all of the notifications on the phone. So every time you pick it up or open your computer, whatever it is, you can go in with clear intention of why you're going in to do the thing.
Yes.
Without having all the distractions. That's it. Like super simple, super simple. So it's the thing is identifying the behavior that you need to change. And then what are the conditions creating the behavior?
Right. Find the behavior you don't like.
The conditions.
What is going on that makes when I do that? What are the other things in my environment? Am I alone? Am I this? Am I looking at my phone? Like what is, I got you.
Yeah.
Took me a bit to figure it out too. I remember going to an alcohol and awareness, or maybe it was a substance abuse class, and they talked about triggers and different, little different fashion, but I do remember that. What, so you get your clarity, right? You're like, all right, this is my clarity. This is what I need to do. This is the direction from my higher self. I'm ready, whatever it might be. And you start to, well, you mentioned sabotage cycles.
Yeah.
I understand sabotage, but you said cycles, which cycle means it's a repeating thing. So other than the insanity of just sabotaging yourself the same way over and over and over and over and over, like help me understand a little bit more about the sabotage cycle. Like what are we pushing ourselves into and how do we break those cycles?
Absolutely. So it's explained, Gay Hendricks explains it the best in The Big Leap. So if you've read The Big Leap, he talks about the thermostat setting, right? You got your upper limit and your lower limit. And anything outside of that comfort zone, you will take specific actions totally unconsciously in order to get back in the comfort zone. So if you fall below a certain point, say your comfort zone, we'll just put the reference of say a certain amount of revenue or income or amount in the bank account, right? And if it gets below a certain point, the response is going into hustle, right? The marketing, the sales, the filling the calendar, the doing all the things to get that cash flow back up. Well, the momentum starts and it keeps going. And there's a point where that goes above the upper limit. Well, what do you do? Whoa. I can't have that much money. That's way too uncomfortable. So subconsciously, a couple things happen. I don't want to be responsible for that. So let me start throwing money at problems, right? For the people who can bring in the money but can't ever keep it. That's I'm not responsible with money. Oh, you're laughing. You're like, I feel so seen right now. Yeah, so bad. So, or the opposite is the cycle of hustle, get all the new clients onboarded. But what happens? Rather than delegating things out or having systems in place to maintain the cycle of marketing, lead gen, and sales, now you pivot away from what got the money over to I've got to deliver and serve my clients. So sales, marketing, lead gen stops, right? This creates the feast and famine cycle. Same thing. So does that paint the picture for you on how these sabotage cycles start? And honestly, it is equal to stress. The higher your stress response, the stronger these cycles are playing out, either more frequently or more intensely. And we have cycles in every part. We've got health cycles, we're doing really good, working out, eating good until we don't. The holidays, going on vacation, travel, like there's always an excuse. It's the same thing in our relationships, right? We get into a big blowout with our significant other. We're back on track. We're back in scheduled date nights and talk nights and, hump day, whatever those things are. And it's good. And then, we start kind of, we didn't make it, or, old habits start to creep in. And so the sabotaging starts again. And then it's the same thing in the business, right? So.
Yeah, fair enough. What I'm sure in your own journey, your internal clarity, right, that you've found has been challenged from time to time. What maybe would you mind taking us through maybe a personal experience that you've had where your internal clarity might have been challenged, or what you did, or maybe just what you would recommend? Like, hey, when you're re-questioned, like maybe I was wrong about this thing I was clear about, or maybe it was just challenged in some fashion. Like how do you break through that, or how do you keep moving towards the North Star in the right direction that way?
So the most important thing to understand is your North Star and your clarity is not static. It is always evolving.
Okay.
You are simply given access to a vision, a scale of scope based on who you are in this moment. And so it's ever changing and evolving. And that's the reason too many people get stuck, is because they never allow the vision to evolve. But think about it. Think about it in the high performance athlete context, spending a lifetime doing all the work, right? We got the Olympics going on, just wrapped up, right? And your whole life is focusing on getting that gold medal. Then you get the gold medal. Then what?
Well, hopefully you get a sponsorship and get on the box of Wheaties, right?
But it never evolved. And so this
Right.
is the challenge, right? This is why so often people get stuck in this kind of identity crisis. You know, I see it in a lot of my fellow veterans as well, right? You've been in this ecosystem with rank and title, or even professions, right? Same thing. Like it's tied to something external. But if you've got that internal knowing, and it's this very experiential, emotional thing where it's less about the details, but who you know you're being. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? That part has never changed, right? There's this deep joy, deep fulfillment, experiencing it with the most important people. But what it looks like is always changing. Right. And so if you're allowing the vision to evolve and grow as quickly as you are, that's the easiest way to stay on track, because you're consistently checking back in with yourself. Every time I deviated from that clarity is when I did not keep up this conversation with myself to check back in again. So I went through big growth period, and then I go through a very large sabotage cycle simply because I'm not staying true to where am I going. That clarity, like I start to buy into the distractions a little bit and get a bit off track, right? Because I'm not checking in often enough. And if I've done big growth, big expansion, big evolution, and you haven't checked back in to recalibrate, that's why you'll get off course. So it's always recalibrating. I mean, just thinking about it, a ship or a plane, they're always checking, am I staying on course? Right? It's always checking in.
Check in, recalibrate, reset boundaries that keeps you on track.
So the boundaries are going to evolve as well, right? As you're doing bigger, more important things, you're going to recognize where boundaries have to get dialed in. So certain areas, as you're becoming busier, you may have to tighten up the boundaries around time, or energy investment, because, you're going through a period of time where there's a bit more expected of you.
Yeah.
So that is also ever evolving. However, at the core, I know what my boundaries are. Like the boundary of no disrespect is fundamental to my identity. And so anytime I feel that, we were actually talking about that, right? Like if somebody's disrespecting my time, I've learned that at this point, my response to that is one time, and I do not allow anyone to do it again, period. Right? Because that's all you can do with your boundaries, is you can't control other people, only how you respond, of what you will and will not allow. And that's it. It's just those have had to tighten up. And then as I've evolved as well and grown, other areas I've had to dial in the boundaries with myself better to make sure to say, hey, I want to be a better partner, sister, daughter, right? Parent. So I want to make sure I keep myself on track with that goal by scheduling time to just check in with everybody, right? Call people or even friend, right? Call my friends, reach out. So I've got to have better boundaries there because I know like just how I'm built. Like I'm okay not peopling. Like I like to network and go out and interact with people, but like deep intimate connection relationships, I'm like, yeah, okay.
All right. What is there any flexibility in your, because you've said it, and I've kind of witnessed it in some areas, super strict on your boundaries. And I have a ton of respect for that. I tend to struggle with boundaries in regards to that. I give too much flexibility to some of them. And I'm going to use kind of just a basic example, right? I'm running a business for one that I'm pushing to grow. I have new people that I'm wanting to develop and I'm wanting to see them do well, and I'm encouraging and so forth. They can to some extent, like I have a basic set of hours that I want them to be in, that our office runs. If they want to work outside of those hours, it's on them, right? They're commission-based salespeople. A lot of salespeople are more driven, like to work harder. I'm also putting a lot of effort into my physical health, right? Mm-hmm. I've been training hard in my martial arts classes. I'm down about 30 pounds since January 1. I'm feeling better, looking better, stronger. I mean, I beat all the young guys' asses in class the other week. Like it was great, nice. Right? So yeah. I'm having both of these things that are going on, but then there's days where I'm like, all right, I want to make sure that I'm committed to my personal training, my training, right? My Kung Fu training. So I'm going to go to class 3 times this week. Class starts at 7:00 every day. And then there's a day where one of my guys is like, look, man, I've got a super pack. I got 3 appointments that I'm running after 6 p.m. and I could probably use your help here. And he didn't even have to ask me, but I wanted to be there for him because I want to make sure that he has everything that he needs to succeed and get what he wants. But then I have to sacrifice something over here. I don't feel bad about sacrificing the Kung Fu that day because it is what it is. But like, how rigid do those boundaries stick?
So boundaries always have a gray area, right? Like, your starting point to your boundaries, your flex, your gray area, and then your hard minimum standard.
Okay.
Right? Like, this is simple, right? You have a meeting with somebody. If you don't hear anything from them within the first 5 minutes, do you bounce? Like, what is that deadline for you that you're like, nope, whatever, that's it. You've got your hard stop. Some people it's 5 minutes, some people it's 10, whatever that is, knowing your hard stop. So you have to know very clearly going into, this is why the planning and really the thinking about your plan is so important, because it allows you to build those systems in advance. So if this happens where they reach out to you, but you don't want to sacrifice yourself, getting honest with one, is this a habit of being a rescuer or a fixer, jumping in to help people, when really the best service is empowering them to figure it out on their own, because that's their own boundary problems. Also, if you don't want to lose that time for yourself, and it's important, is saying, okay, where do the systems and automations and leverage points need to be put in place to empower them to be able to have a bigger capacity and handle these things and not get overloaded? That's a leader saying, how do I set them up for success with better tools and systems and tech?
I should be paying you for therapy today.
I think you said that the last time.
I did. Oh, shit. So, all right. So this sounds like a discipline problem. Am I right? Am I wrong? Setting boundaries, obeying your boundaries, sticking to your boundaries.
Discipline, just like consistency, are a result, not a starting point.
Discipline is a result, not a starting point.
Discipline is a result.
A result of what?
You don't start with discipline. You start with boundaries, and you start with systems to hold to your boundaries. Over time, you see through, you create consistency. You create a pattern of discipline. You create discipline. You don't just have discipline. It's something you make. You create a pattern of discipline. You create a pattern of consistency. But what needs to happen to begin? How many times have people said, I just need more discipline? What did they do? Fucking nothing about it. Not a damn thing. It's because the overwhelm is looking at the end result, not what are the steps that need to happen in order to create the pattern that you observe as discipline. Does that make sense?
100%. I definitely understand the overwhelming is always looking at the end result, the big magnificence that's in your brain. You're like, I want to be
the elephant,
right?
Not the one bite at a time.
Yes. And that's why, again, that's a big part of why we started doing short-term targets in our office here, is because we understood that if we want to get there, we got to do it one bite at a time, like 1 week at a time. Let's build this thing.
Well, it's focusing on the process, not the outcomes, because you can't control the outcomes. You can influence the outcomes, but you can only focus on what you can control. And you cannot, I hate to tell people this all the time, but I'm like, you cannot control what that scale says. If you're focusing on trying to get to that number, you cannot control it. You can only control what you put in your body, what you do with your body, how you rest, what supplements you're taking, right? Like that's what you can control, not what that scale says.
I have to disagree with you on that one. And specifically because I have one of those old analog scales where you can adjust it on the bottom.
You're like,
so I start at negative 10 pounds. And then, so I'm definitely in control on that one. Teasing, of course.
You're so funny.
Teasing, of course. But you've said systems a few times, and I know a couple times you've talked about systems from the very professional standpoint of automations, processes, things of that nature. But I can't help but believe you also mean it as internal systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Personal systems, internal systems, right? It's where do you need to create the conditions and it be repeatable conditions that allow you to encourage the behavior you do want and not the behavior you don't want. So simple systems here are, if I know I'm getting up early the next day to go to the gym, to do a class or work with my trainer, whatever it is, especially when it's me, right? There's no class, there's no trainer. You're setting up the conditions to cancel on yourself when there's no external accountability, right? So how do I set up the conditions for success? Well, the night before, my systems are, I pre-schedule and pre-make the coffee the night before. So it's already brewing a few minutes before I get up. The other systems are around my clothes, right? These are these leverage points, is setting out all my exercise clothes. My shoes are out there. My shoes, this is one for me. I am eliminating the resistance of having to untie my shoes. So I untie and loosen the laces the night before. So all I got to do is slip my shoes or slip my feet in the shoes, right? Those are different systems to create for yourself to encourage success. I have a system of a daily AM, PM tracker. It's a piece of paper. I print it out. What am I doing in the morning? Gratitude, supplements, plan my day, things like that. Same thing, PM, wins and successes, release technique, journaling, reading, supplements again. What are these different things? And it's just checking the box. Did I do it? Did I not do it? But I'm not wasting any energy or bandwidth here forcing myself to do it or remembering what I need to do, right? So the system is helping to just allow the actions to happen without resistance or draining your energy.
Yeah. I was complaining about that this morning because I wasn't feeling like I was having a great hair day. And it was pissing me off because I was like, why did I grow my hair back out? I used to just wear a buzz cut, like crew cut, basically a military looking cut, because I specifically wanted to remove that entire little piece of resistance every morning where I sat in the mirror and studied my face and my hair for 20 minutes to make sure it looked presentable for somebody. Because I really don't give a shit, to be honest with you. I'd rather save that 20 minutes and just be basically bald and just roll like Sinead O'Connor it and let's go kill it.
I mean, even Steve Jobs, right? Wearing the same outfit every day.
Right.
It's a system to remove any sort of energy drain that's required with thinking about what to do. Think about when you do have a structured meal plan, whether it's a metabolic reboot, a cleanse, or whatever it is. During that time, that container, you know exactly what you're eating. How much freedom is there in never having the conversation, what are we having for dinner today? Worrying about what you're going to eat. Right? It's exhausting. Like these are all, but the interesting thing is every one of those energy drains equates to a profit leak. That's the lag indicator. If the best use of your energy, this renewable resource, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual energy, right? Financial energy, occupational energy, environmental, social, right? All of those things. If those energy banks are drained, that shows up in the actual bank.
Yeah.
So moving away from time, which is not renewable, and shifting to managing your energy and optimizing, it's all of those little things that keep people broke. It's not the $2,500 a month mortgage payment or the $1,000 a month car payment. People know that you have your eyes on those big things. And it's the little things that keep people broke, right? The small credit card payments, the $9 here for Netflix, or the $20 here for this, the $17 there for that. Those are the small drains that keep people broke financially. And the exact same stuff is showing up in your calendar. Every one of those meetings that you're allowing 5 or 10 extra minutes, right? Those are those energy drains, those time drains that are keeping you from the level of profit and revenue that you could be. So when you start looking at all of those energy drains as profit leaks, it's a hell of an ass kicker.
Yeah. Whether you're looking at it in the business or even the personal standpoint, because your own personal growth is profit, right?
Mm-hmm. Even just personal budgets and how you're investing, right? Everything that you're doing is an investment. What is your ROI? And if you're investing your energy, like if you just get rid of time, stop worrying about time. If you're not trading time for money, stop managing your time. So if you start managing your energy and looking at how do you optimize your energy between strain activities, recovery activities, and where can you create systems and leverage so that you're maintaining those battery charges, or you're peppering in between drain activities, more recovery, right? Do the things, a little time in nature, play with the kids, the dog, whatever, a little afternoon delight, like whatever it is to recharge your batteries. Like that helps you perform at your peak, which means you're eliminating a lot of those profit leaks. And when you start bringing this concept and this type of performance into your organization, now you're maximizing not only your capacity, but the capacity of all of the people on your team, which means you're now leveraging more of the technology and all of these other assets and resources, which increases the capacity of your organization. And when you increase your capacity, not only do you increase your ability to rapidly scale profit, but it also increases your valuation of your organization if you're looking for funding or to sell.
Sure.
So we just went full circle from North Star all the way to being able to massively increase your profit.
Love it. Good stuff. Well, I know we have a hard stop coming up at 9, so we got a couple more minutes. I have one more question for you. What is your vision for the future in terms of your own North Star?
Well, I actually shared a bit of that. So that was that vision of spending a month on the private island or the yacht in the Mediterranean, and the places we're at are not mine. They're my clients. Right. But we're there, Jeff's with me and all the people that are important there with me. And we're focusing on doing really big, deep, transformative work, strategic implementing, advising for them to do bigger, more impactful things, and that's that ripple effect outwards. And yeah, I've had that vision actually for a few years, just this knowing that that's the compass, that's where I'm going. And it took me time to grow into seeing more of what that was there with that vision. So
Mm.
originally it just started with me and Jeff and just, we're at these places. But as I grew and evolved and matured, more of that got filled in to say, no, but this is not about you just doing something small. This is your client's island or yacht, or right. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, I can dig that for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Super fun.
Absolutely. Well, man, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. Like I feel like I tricked you into getting some therapy. I'm like, hey, do me a favor, come get on this podcast. I'll let you promote some of your stuff, and and you can infect my group. But really, I'm really just inviting you for me. It's all a big selfish ploy.
It's okay. Isn't that the best? Because if you're being real and vulnerable, people who are watching and listening are like, oh my God, you're speaking my truth.
Absolutely. So how can more people reach out to you if people want to get infected by your brain? They want to get your book or books, plural? I forget.
Yeah. There's a couple co-author books. And then mine, I've got mine. That's just mine as well. So yeah, the StaceyRaske.com is the easiest. That kind of is that central hub to link to all the different things respectively. The links to getting on my calendar and chatting more, links to resources, joining my Facebook community. I've got courses, books, like all the things. It's really every opportunity to kind of check all the boxes and be of service if you're picking up what I'm putting down and enjoying the vibes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping in, Stacey. Have an awesome rest of your week, and would definitely look forward to getting you back on the show. I want to keep chatting with you more. I have so many more things that I want to talk to you about, so stay tuned because we're going to bring her back eventually. She's a busy woman. She's going to be in the Mediterranean doing things, but we'll keep her on.
You know what? Actually, if you are listening and you want some of my favorite free resources, go to VIPStacey.com.
Boom.
So Stacey, no E, just like mine is. So VIPSTACY.com.
Perfect. We'll put that in the comments too. I'll get Lily, our producer, to get that in the comments for you. VIPStacey.com.
There you go.
Perfect. Awesome. Have an awesome day. You guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. A lot of good guests coming up. Have an awesome day.